It's inevitable. Anyone who spends time around water eventually loses something. A fishing rod, eyeglasses, dive equipment, a boat hook, the list is endless. Often no one ever sees the lost object again. But that's not the case when you know how to search for and recover something lost underwater. Instead, you'll usually be able to retrieve what someone lost. The process of searching for, finding, and raising something to the surface is a challenging and exciting underwater pursuit. It can save you or a buddy money if you accidentally drop or lose a piece of dive gear. And it's rewarding and satisfying to help someone who lost something of personal value. All these reasons make search and recovery one of the most useful and practical dive skills you can master. And it's a skill you'll apply as you continue your education through the PADI Rescue Diver and Dive Master levels. Some divers find search and recovery so rewarding that what they learn in this course becomes the foundation for moving into professional search and recovery. This raises the important point that there are significant differences between being a recreational search and recovery diver and a professional one. As a recreational search and recovery diver, you'll learn to find and recover small to medium-sized objects, primarily for the challenge or to recover something you lost. Profit isn't a primary focus, and your search isn't necessarily made as part of a formal search team. Professionals, on the other hand, have special training in commercial diving and may recover large objects, such as automobiles or boats, and may search for articles with great value, missing persons, or crime evidence, and dives in polluted water, severe current, near industrial or dam water intakes, in zero visibility, or involving other hazardous water conditions are beyond recreational diving. Leave these jobs to the professionals. You may find opportunities to earn hobby income, such as by selling salvaged items you find or collectibles, like old bottles or fossils. But remember that in some areas, earning any money with search and recovery may make you subject to regulations that apply to commercial diving. And many laws regulate salvage and antiquities. Be sure to follow any laws and regulations that apply in your area. There are two types of search and recovery. The first is searching for an item you know to be lost in the area, and the second is bottom combing for whatever you might find. When looking for a specific object that you're sure is in the immediate area, typically requires a methodical, well-planned search, and you end the dive when you find the object. When bottom combing, you usually continue the dive until you reach a dive limit, such as air supply, no decompression limit, or get cold. The search doesn't require as much planning because you're not even sure there's anything to find. Since you can apply specific object search techniques to bottom combing, you'll learn and practice those in the PADI Search and Recovery Diver course. Search and recovery can take you to a wide variety of underwater environments. Often the only reason to dive there is that you're looking for something lost, but that can be reason enough. You assess the dive conditions as you normally would, and you choose your search techniques based primarily on two factors: bottom topography, and water movement. A flat, open bottom topography is the easiest to search because there are no obstructions that you have to navigate around. But current or water movement easily sweeps objects away from the open bottom. Irregular bottoms limit your search techniques, and rock or coral crevices can hide the lost object, but they can also keep it from being swept away by the water. Water movement, such as tide, current, or surge, affects your searches. If there's a current, the object gets swept downstream as it sinks. This is especially true when searching in a river. Water movement can bury lost objects or uncover objects that have been buried a long time. You may need to use special current searches when water movement is so strong that you can't maintain your position against it. But on the plus side, current carries away any silt you kick up, helping keep visibility good in the search area. Search and recovery has 6 hazards you can easily avoid by being alert and taking a few precautions. The first of these is buried or concealed sharp objects that you may encounter when looking for a small object on the bottom. Use care and keep an eye out on the bottom, and wear heavy-duty gloves for protection. Entanglement can be a problem with line used for the search or rigging an object you want to raise. Around piers and docks, you may run into fishing line. As a precaution, carry a sharp knife or diver's tool. Some divers carry a smaller second one on their BCD to be sure they can reach either easily. Low visibility may present problems if you stir up the bottom and make low visibility no visibility. You need to move carefully and slowly to avoid obstacles, and be careful to stay with your buddy. Check your air, depth, time, and direction regularly, and maintain close buddy communication. If the visibility is so poor that you can't do this, then consider the conditions beyond the limits of recreational search and recovery. Currents can be a problem in almost any body of water. They can sweep you away from the dive boat, the search area, or your exit point. Don't hesitate to abort a dive if current is too strong. You won't be able to search effectively anyway. If you're not familiar with local currents, it's a good idea to ask a local diver about the conditions to expect so you can plan for them. Pay attention to current direction while searching in a current, and avoid having to swim against anything but a very mild current. If possible, plan your dive so your search takes you down current and your exit is down current. You'll learn more about search patterns in currents in a bit. You need to be concerned with falling objects when lifting recovered items to the surface. Be careful to stay out from under anything when you're raising it. Search and recovery may take you into areas where boat traffic is a concern. Use a locally recognized diver down flag to mark your position and also to mark off your search area if possible. If possible, have someone at the surface to watch for boat traffic. In any case, don't assume boats always see or recognize your dive flag. Look up and around as you come up, and surface cautiously. If you hear a boat while on the bottom, stay there until it passes. Avoid swimming just below the surface, where you can't be seen. It's important for safety to plan any dive. When making a search and recovery dive, planning is crucial for your safety and success. It helps you recognize and avoid hazards, and it guides your choice of search patterns. Most failures to locate a lost object follow a failure to plan the search. After planning safety considerations such as depth, air, and time limits, begin planning the search by establishing a clear, single dive objective. It should be realistic and within the planned dive limits. If the search area is too large to reasonably search in one dive, make the objective to search a portion on each of several dives. Next, get as much information as you can about the lost object, about where it sank, its size and weight, and if there's anything special about the way you need to handle it. If you're not familiar with the dive site, try to find out the bottom topography and composition, the likely surface conditions, possible hazards, and local emergency contact numbers. Now you're ready to select a dive buddy or search team and develop a strategy for the recovery or search. When several teams will search for a single object, it's best to select one individual to conduct the briefings, make assignments, and coordinate the search. In determining buddy teams and planning the dive, be sure to discuss communications such as signals you'll use, how to stay in contact, and what to do if separated. The easiest search technique is when you see it at the moment it sinks. By pinpointing it, you reduce your search area, or may be able to descend right on it. You use two techniques for pinpointing an object. One if you're ashore and see it sink, and the other if you're at the surface and ditch something or if you drop it overboard from a boat. If you're ashore when something sinks, face it squarely from an easily identified point as close to the water as you can. Turn 180 degrees and find another distinct point directly in line. Write down your line points for reference later. Then find another distinct point down the shore, 45 to 90 meters, 50 to 100 yards from the first, or as far as practical, and repeat the process. If possible, do this a third time on the other side of your original line. Try to align tall, thin objects for the best accuracy, such as a pole, tree, or the edge of a building or structure. When you're ready to recover the object, swim to the approximate place where it sank. Swim until you align the first 2 points. Staying on that line, align the second and third set of points. This should put you right over the lost object. If you drop something at the surface, immediately face shore and find 2 aligned objects. The farther apart the objects are spread, the better. Note these on your slate. Then turn 60 to 120 degrees and repeat the process. Or, you can take a compass bearing on a distinct mark if there's nothing to align. Note your bearings on your slate. To relocate the spot, swim until you align your markings or find the spot where you read the same compass bearing to distinct marks. This should put you directly over the lost object. If you can't pinpoint the object, you'll need to establish a general search area. Try to limit the search by establishing a rectangular or square area between natural boundaries. If the search area is large, you may want to measure its sides. This will help you choose a search pattern and give you an idea of how many dives or teams you'll need to cover all of it. Begin by using a float, marker, or distinct natural formation to establish a specific spot. Then search away from it using the simplest search pattern that will do the job. The U-search pattern is useful for finding small or larger objects in a relatively large area without any special equipment. Usually you begin at the corner of your intended search area and search in one direction following a compass heading, a predetermined distance. Then make two 90-degree turns a short distance to bring you back on the next line. How close you space search legs depends on the visibility and the search object size, but allow sufficient overlap to assure no search gaps. Swim as many search legs as you need until you find the object or until reaching some other dive limit. If you don't find the object, return to your start point and begin a U pattern in another direction from it. If there's a current present, try to orient the pattern so the current aligns with the long legs. Use the nav finder as an easy way to determine compass headings for each leg and to track your position in the pattern. With the nav finder, it's easy to determine the shortest route to the start point or your exit from anywhere in the pattern. Like the U pattern, the expanding square requires no special equipment and is a good choice for a medium-size object that you know isn't too far away. It's also a good choice over rough terrain. Begin at the center of your search area, swim a short leg, turn 90 degrees, and swim a slightly longer leg. Repeat this, making each leg slightly longer so you search in a straight-sided spiral. How much longer you make each leg depends on how big the search area is, the object, visibility, and so on, but allow some overlap. When there's water movement in your search area, such as from current or surge, a rope-assisted search pattern may be more convenient to use accurately. Your instructor will have you practice search patterns on shore before you try them underwater. When you practice rope-assisted patterns, you'll want to establish and practice rope signals so you can maintain an effective buddy system even beyond sight of your buddy. Keep signals simple. For example, one pull means attention or begin search. Two pulls means OK. Three pulls means completed portion of pattern. Four pulls means come toward me. Continuous pulls means emergency, I need your assistance immediately. The circular search pattern is a good choice for finding a small object in a relatively small area over an unobstructed bottom. One diver anchors the search at the center, while the other swims a circle. After completing the circle, the diver with the reel lets out more line. This makes the next search circle larger. The anchor diver usually controls the reel, though the search diver may control it, especially if unusual topography makes it useful to vary the distance between search circles. Or you can anchor to an object so both of you can search with the outer diver holding the reel. This lets you cover more bottom with each circle. You continue a circular search until you find the object, until you run out of line, or until you reach some other dive limit. The semicircular search is a good choice for searching a long, thin area quickly. You begin with a compass heading and a length of rope set according to the visibility and search object size. Then, you and your buddy alternate searching and anchoring along the heading. On the return leg, you search the other side while following a reciprocal heading. If you don't find the object, you establish a new heading to search along that overlaps the previous. The jackstay search pattern is a good choice for searching a large area. There are several versions that are pretty similar. We'll look at two. Begin by establishing parallel baselines on both sides of the search area. You and your buddy stretch a rope from one baseline to the other. Then anchor it with weights. On a line pull signal, you swim toward each other on opposite rope sides, passing in the middle. At the end, you stop, and then you and your buddy pull signal that you're ready to move the anchored ends along the baseline an agreed distance based on the visibility and search object size. Again, you signal, then swim along the search line, repeating the process until you find the object, cover the entire search area, or reach some other dive limit. Another version of the jackstay search pattern begins the same by establishing baselines. In this version, though, one diver searches while taking the line across from one side to the other. After reaching the other side, the diver pivots the line an agreed distance, again based on the search object size and visibility, and anchors it. The diver then swims back, searching along the line until rejoining his buddy. They pivot the line and anchor it, then search together along either side, repeating the process until finding the lost object or reaching some other limit. In many circumstances, you can search more efficiently when someone at the surface leads you through the pattern. This lets you devote your attention to searching, and it's a good way to quickly coordinate many divers in a single pattern. It's a good choice in poor visibility and useful in currents. Surface-led searches always involve at least 3 people: the tender, who leads the search at the surface, the search diver, and either a buddy or a standby diver ready to assist the search diver. Most surface-controlled patterns use a rope to guide searching divers, so you'll want to establish line signals between the divers and the surface leader or tender. For example, from diver to surface, one pull means attention or beginning pattern. 2 pulls means okay or okay and continuing. 3 pulls is the signal for take up slack in line. 4 pulls means give me slack. 5 pulls asks the tender to send down standby diver. 6 pulls asks for pull me up immediately. Continuous pulls means emergency, diver needs immediate assistance. Surface-to-diver signals are similar, but differ slightly. As before, one pull means attention and stop. 2 pulls means okay. OK and continue? 3 pulls signal go right. 4 pulls means go left. 5 pulls tells divers to search where you are. 6 pulls tells divers come up immediately. Letting line out means go out or down. And taking line in means come in or up. Of course, you can establish different signals other than these suggestions to meet your specific needs. The shore walk pattern is simple and can involve one or many search divers. It's a good way to search a large area near a shore. For the shore walk pattern, extend a rope perpendicular from shore out far enough that it is beyond the search object. Divers space themselves along the line and swim together. The tender keeps the line slightly taut, walking with the divers until reaching the end of the search area. The tender signals the divers to stop and turn around, then pulls in line. The divers keep the line taut and swim back in the other direction for the next search leg. This continues until divers find the object, reach water too shallow to swim, or reach some other dive limit. A snorkeler-led search, or V-search, is a good choice for searching a large area rapidly. You need a snorkeler, a tow line, and 2 or more search divers. The snorkeler tows the line held by a single diver, who is accompanied by the others, forming a V, staggered behind this lead diver. When the water is clear enough to see the surface from the bottom, you may eliminate the line altogether by having the lead diver follow the snorkeler visually. Once you find what you're looking for, you want to take it to the surface. This isn't an issue with small objects, but it is with large objects that are too heavy to swim to the surface. For objects weighing up to about 45 kilograms, 100 pounds, you will most commonly use an air-filled lift bag. And in some circumstances, you may lift the object from a boat or dock. Generally, your best bet is a commercially made lift bag. These are made for lifting from rugged material that withstands the abuse of lifting. They have rigging designed for the stress subjected by the bag's lifting capacity, and most have valves for releasing expanding air from the bag during ascent. In a pinch, you can improvise a lift bag, but it's recommended that you do this only when absolutely necessary. Homemade lift bags may be less reliable and lack the strength and features found in commercial ones. To attach the lift bag, you'll need nylon rope. Nylon rope withstands the rigors of aquatic environments well, and the knots you tie in it seldom slip. Avoid polypropylene because it isn't as strong as nylon, and knots tied in it are more likely to slip. Speaking of knots, there are a few basic ones you'll want to practice so you can securely rig the lift bag to the object you're recovering. Perhaps the most useful knot to learn is the bowline. You use a bowline to tie a loop. It's a secure knot that doesn't slip, yet is easy to untie even after carrying a heavy load. To tie a bowline, run the free end around what you want to tie the loop to. Make a loop with the free end coming off the top. Then pass the free end up through the loop, around the line, and back down through the loop. Pull it snug. The sheet bend is used to tie two lines together. It's a good knot for this, especially when the lines differ in size. The sheet bend is similar to the bow line. Make a loop in the smaller line with the free end coming off the top of the loop. Bring the free end of the other line through the loop from underneath. Pass it around the small line and bring it back through the loop. Pull it snug. You use two half hitches to attach a line to an object. Pass the line around the object, back under itself, and between the loop and the object. Do this again, and you have a knot that's easy to untie and holds well. But this knot only stays tied under tension. If you let the rope relax, the knot may slide apart. A word of caution. The square knot is not an appropriate lifting knot because it slips easily when stressed on one side. Don't use square knots for recovery. Rigging the object for lifting varies depending upon what it is. Using the knots you just learned, you secure the object so you can raise it with a lift bag or by hauling it from the surface. A couple important points. First, if lifting from a small boat, be sure the object isn't so heavy that its added weight won't overload the boat. Second, never use your BCD as a lifting device, because if you drop the object, you would be very buoyant, risking an uncontrolled, high-speed ascent. If you can't swim an object to the surface, use a lift bag, or lift from the surface. Now let's look at the steps for raising an object with a lift bag. The first step is to mark the object with a buoy, so that if it sinks during recovery, you can find it easily without running another search. Next, rig the object with lines and attach the lift bag. Use a lift bag with a lifting capacity as close to the object's weight as possible. This way, expanding air during ascent will bubble out. A lift bag much larger than required may retain the expanding air, making it more difficult to control. Next, put a small air burst into the bag from your alternate air source or an accessory inflator. Just use enough air to make the bag stand up so it doesn't get tangled while you check the rigging by tugging it firmly and steadily. When you're sure the rigging's secure, begin filling the lift bag in small bursts. You want to put in just enough air to make the object neutrally buoyant. So add short bursts and then check the buoyancy by pulling up on the object. A mud or silt bottom can create suction that will hold the object down. Don't use the lift bag to overcome suction if you can help it, because when the object comes free, it may take off uncontrolled. Instead, try to release it by pulling up and rocking the object. Sometimes it may help to dig around the object before trying to lift it. Keep adding small air bursts and pulling upward until you have the object neutrally buoyant just over the bottom. When you're ready to raise the object, simply begin swimming it up. Expanding air will make it buoyant so it continues rising. Stay out from under the bag so that if the object slips loose, it won't sink on top of you. If you need to move the object horizontally, you may find it easier to do so underwater than at the surface. If the lift bag's almost full when you start, it shouldn't become excessively buoyant. In this case, you may want to let it ascend on its own. But if the bag is only partially full, you may want to ascend with it, letting out expanding air to keep the ascent under control. Be cautious to maintain a safe ascent rate. If you lose control of the bag, just let it go and swim away so you won't be under it in case it spills at the surface and the object sinks. Once you have the object at the surface, you're almost home. However, you may need to get help getting it out of the water. If you and your buddy don't have help at hand, it may be easiest to tow the object and bag to shallow water. Then retrieve it after getting out of your dive gear. Once you've practiced search and recovery, you'll find that it makes for a challenging and rewarding dive. Your search and recovery skills will come in handy when someone loses something underwater. But you'll also want to practice your skills periodically, not just to keep them sharp, but because it's a fun activity while diving.